Hi, everybody. My name is Nicole Naditz. I work in San Juan Unified School District. I taught French for almost 25 years, but now I am a curriculum administrator and I basically support teaching and learning with technology for all grades and all subjects. And I support all of our district's world languages programs. I am so sorry that I could not be there online with you today. And so I hope that this video will be helpful in terms of how we in San Juan Unified are looking at what it means to use artificial intelligence in a human-centered way, whether a math teacher is doing it, a fifth grade teacher is doing it, or a world language educator. First of all, I want to give you a little bit of context. In San Juan Unified School District, we do have two educational AI platforms available. For staff, we have Magic School, and for students, we have Magic Student for grades 3 and up. It's important to note that students actually don't have anywhere where they can click and just explore all the tools in Magic Student. It's really designed to be driven by teachers, and teachers select which tools, how, and when the students will access them. In addition, we have some additional integrated AI tools in our platforms. For example, for staff, we also have access to Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini and Notebook LM, which is part of the Google suite of tools. In addition, our instructional suite of instructional technology includes tools that have some AI built into their features, but are not, strictly speaking, generative AI tools on their own, such as Cami, Canva, and Adobe Create. Those are available to staff and students. I should note again that Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, and Notebook LM are currently only available to staff. When we thought about purchasing an educational AI tool, first for staff and then later for students, we have some really strong non-negotiables. And so before I talk about what human-centered AI is, I always like to share a little bit about what it was we considered when we thought about whether or not we were going to purchase anything like this. First of all, the tools have to be completely stateless, safe, and secure with our data, our students' data. And stateless means that everything that we generate within our San Juan Unified license of Magic School and our San Juan Unified license of Magic Student stays right here in San Juan Unified. It never leaves our district ecosystem to further train those models and tools or to be mashed up into the content that other people generate outside of our San Juan district. We also insist that the tools have a full accessibility widget so that anybody using it can navigate the platform in the way that is most comfortable to them using accessibility tools and devices and technologies if needed. They can adjust things like the font size, the contrast, navigating with a keyboard versus a mouse, among many, many other things, because there is a full accessibility widget. We insisted on that, so Magic School added it for both Magic School and Magic Student. It is the only educational tool on the market that actually has this feature. In addition, we have several major languages of the communities in our district. And so we also insisted that any tool we purchase not only type in the languages of our district, but also provide oral output in all of the major languages of our district, as well as accept oral input from our users who do not type in the languages that they speak across the major languages of our district. This is important because two of our major languages are Ukrainian and Pashto, neither of which reads aloud in Google Translate, and neither of which can accept voice input by users in Google Translate. And most educational AI tools and other AI tools that have translation rely on Google Translate for which ones can be read aloud and which ones can't. So again, we insisted that Magic School and Magic Student add more language translation models so that our whole community could benefit from these tools. We, of course, insist that the outputs, the work that is produced, the content that is drafted be of high quality to the greatest degree possible. There's always going to be some errors, but we did insist on the quality of those outputs. And we talked to them about how many large language models are sitting underneath their platform, because it's actually better to have more than one model so that you can really train the tools to do to decide to funnel tasks to certain large language models based on what those models do best. If you only have one model, you're stuck with that one model, no matter what it's good at or not as good at. We also insist that it be robust in terms of the features available and the ways in which it can support both teaching for our teaching staff and other staff, as well as our students. I also regularly check in with them to find out when it was that they last did a quality check on the quality of the outputs that it drafts, as well as on how well it is doing at continuing to mitigate for bias, which is present in all large language models. And again, Magic School, Magic Student, Brisk, School AI, all of those have large language models sitting underneath them that do the bulk of the work that is later given to the user. For Magic Student in particular, we also had to make sure it wouldn't do the work for students and that it is teacher driven, meaning the students can't access things on their own without teachers deciding which tools and when, and also that teachers have full visibility into all student interactions on the platform. This is not true, for example, of Google Gemini, and Google keeps trying to turn on Gemini for all students in districts that have G Suite for Education, but you don't have full teacher insight, among other issues. Now, as we think about supporting the rollout of Magic School and Magic Student, believe it or not, this is all still talking, this is leading up to this human-centered AI idea. We didn't just buy a license and then release it upon our district and say, here you go, have fun. We provided training for staff, and that looked like a lot of things. First of all, staff isn't just classroom teachers. We include IAs, administrators, counselors, and others because a variety of staff are using Magic School to support their work with students and to really meet the unique and individual needs of students in the context of the work that those staff members do. All introductory programs for AI integrated tools begin with a foundations in generative AI. I'm very stubborn about this. I insist on providing it. If you've ever been to any of my programs at CLTA or elsewhere, you've probably seen it also because I will not talk about using AI without doing this foundational piece to make sure that we're all starting with kind of the same framework of understanding of what AI is, how it's trained, why its training matters in the work that it can and cannot do, and what the limitations, challenges, and concerns are with generative AI and how to mitigate for those to the best of our ability. With that foundation laid, then I start building initial comfort with the available tools we have, always emphasizing a human-centered approach, which I will get to in just a moment. Part of the work we're also doing in this rollout is really uplifting staff examples and student examples of how AI is impacting them because of their ability to use it thoughtfully and intentionally. And so that helps me share concrete examples of what it's looking like for our school district to use generative AI in meaningful ways. And now, as we've had Magic Student for 1 year and almost 2 years of Magic School, well, not quite 1 year for Magic Student, but still, we are starting to branch out and I'm starting to offer customized and contextualized programs based on content area for different district office departments, as well as for those who are now more advanced users, because now we have a cohort of people who don't just need the foundations. They're really ready to go to that next step. The thoughtful rollout also included meetings for families. I've talked to them about foundations in generative AI, understanding our use of AI in the district, and also how to talk to your students about AI. When we think about Magic Student in particular, there were also a few more steps. I really wanted to make sure I provided staff with resources for building student AI literacy and skills. I want teachers to teach students about AI before they let the students use AI, just like my stubbornness in not letting my staff or any teachers I interact with anywhere work with the AI tools I might be talking about unless they've had a foundations in generative AI. I also support staff with resources to facilitate class conversations to collaboratively develop agreements around AI use. Because if the students and teachers work together on what it's going to look like to use AI as a learning community, and something goes wrong, they have those agreements to fall back on to say, hey, this thing occurred, or we noticed someone using AI in this way. How does that align or not align with our agreements? Or if something new happens that the agreements didn't envision, agreements are a living document. This teaches students some really important things about collaborations and working together and being a learner and a lifelong learner. Let's revisit those agreements. Do we need to add or adjust something in the agreements in the face of this new knowledge that we have about AI? I then asked teachers to develop some fluency in how to train student-facing AI tools so that those tools will do their best work based on the learning goals and students' experiences and needs. Even with education trained tools like Magic Student, they only receive this base amount of training. And generally speaking, that's not going to be enough for the tool to really respond to students in the way any given teacher is going to hope it does. So I really have to support teachers with what it looks like to train tools and what it looks like to test tools in numerous ways before they go ahead and release those tools to students. So that does lead to this next piece of really recommending to teachers that they train and test all tools before deploying. Pretend to be a student who's struggling. How does it respond? Do you need to adjust the training? Pretend to be a student who generally does okay, but sometimes has a little trouble. How does the tool respond to that student? Do you need to adjust the training? Pretend to be a student who really almost always is just exceptional in their work. Maybe is that student who also finishes early. How does the tool respond to them to keep them engaged and interested and provide that kind of appropriate and engaging level of challenge without just making it feel like we're giving those kids extra work? And if needed, teachers can also test the tool as that student who's going to try to do everything possible to either break the tool or see if they can convince it to do things it's not supposed to do. How does the tool respond? Does the tool need additional training to respond better? Then, after all of those steps have been met, now they can consider providing those trained and tested tools to students in alignment with those class agreements. So what is human-centered AI? I think there's a lot of people talking about it. I don't have a concrete definition, so you're going to see several slides that kind of break down several facets of what I consider to be human-centered AI. First of all, part of human-centered AI does really revolve around demonstrating AI literacy by centering their unique skills as humans to use AI with integrity, with intentionality, and with insight. But also, they know when to not use AI because they understand its limitations, risks, and challenges. And this particular thing that they need to do or work on maybe isn't best suited for AI work at all in that context. Human-centered AI also means really prioritizing human-to-human collaboration. AI is seen as one of many potential thought partners, not the only thought partner to support human work. This also includes in the student side, by the way, recommending something called co-use. This is something I've actually been recommending to teachers since 2018. And what it means is instead of having students on Chromebooks in isolation, consider whether or not the task would actually benefit from having 2 or 3 students share a device so that they can collaborate and talk together and pose questions together and analyze together and so on as part of the work that they're doing with any technology tool, AI or otherwise. Human-centered AI also means that human ingenuity remains at the core of the work. All work with generative AI is driven by human ingenuity, human creativity, and human expertise. It also means that staff and students assume responsibility for what happens next with AI drafted content. If they're being given the agency to use AI, for example, if students have received a digital room and in that room there are a couple of AI powered tools they can use, they're being given agency to turn to those tools if they would like to support their work. But they also have to assume responsibility for what happens next with AI drafted content. And that is also true for our adult users. Remember that AI is new to all of us. None of us came into teaching already knowing and understanding generative AI. And unfortunately, that also means our school systems are being looked to now to really graduate students who understand what it means to use AI in ethical and human-centered and productive ways, even though none of us were trained in that. So we can't just ignore this. And that's another reason I'm actually really glad you're all here during this seminar that we are leading, even though I couldn't be there with you today. Also, as part of human-centered AI, that means humans know a lot of things. Humans know that AI is not human, that AI predicts, it doesn't actually know anything, that AI is devoid of cultural understanding and devoid of cultural nuance and many other forms of nuance, and that AI outputs do not, in fact, reflect all human creativity, human genius, human knowledge, human skill now or in the past. There is a whole lot that humans have contributed to who we are today that just isn't part of the training that these large language models receive. There's also a lot of language and varieties of language that just aren't prevalent enough on the internet to be part of the training that these AI large language models receive. So we have to be really conscientious of the fact that Again, AI is not human. It doesn't know anything, and it does not, in fact, reflect the sum total of human genius and knowledge. And finally, we recognize that with human guidance, AI augments our work and AI supports our work, but AI does not do the work. It does not replace student thinking, and it does not replace teachers' experiences, teachers' deep knowledge of their schools, their students, their communities, and the craft of teaching. It does not and it cannot. In fact, education is one of the only places where AI is not replacing jobs right now. Instead, educators who understand how to use AI with integrity, intentionality, and insight are finding that they are feeling more like they can keep doing this very rewarding, but also very difficult and challenging work because using AI in knowledgeable ways is actually helping them have better work-life balance. But it really does depend on everything I've been talking about in this video around human-centered AI as well. So just remember, generative AI, whether it's in Brisk, EduAid, School AI, Magic School, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, Claude, or whatever, it is nothing without you. It depends on you for guidance. It wants to please, but it's like a toddler, right? It really is depending on you, and it is nothing without you. It is just sitting there. So we have two guiding principles that we share that help our teachers with this and that help students understand this. One is the human AI human sandwich. Humans start the work. AI might do a task in response to that human prompt, but then humans retake control, review that draft, and decide what happens next, whether it's more iteration with the AI or humans just regaining control completely and working on the rest of it on their own. And that leads right into the 80-20 rule. If we're using an AI tool, in a way that it has been trained to function well, like an educational AI tool, for example, is trained in education specifically. So if we're giving it a task related to classroom practices, we can count on it to do about 80% of that task really, really well and really fast. But the other 20%, that's our job. And that goes right back to that human AI human sandwich. So human-centered AI really does involve so many facets. And I hope this video was helpful in kind of understanding what it is that I'm sharing in my district to help them understand what it means to be a human in the AI space and that humans are still leading this work. Humans are still needed, and AI is a support, not a replacement. Thank you again so much. Please know that our panelists will collect any questions you have and send them to me, and then I will provide responses back that will be shared out with all of you along with this slide deck. Have a wonderful day.